and suddenly I felt nothing. I couldn't cry, so once again, I couldn't sleep.
New video unveiled at a congressional hearing with UAP whistleblowers raising questions about whether there's something truly out there. Now, you'll remember UFOs, that's what we grew up saying, right, are now called UAPs by the U.S. government.
As I began walking towards the light, towards the flight line and the track, the light then flies across the base, across the flight line, and as it flies to me, a triangle manifests around the light. I can't tell you if it's active camouflage. I can't tell you if it appeared around the light, but I can tell you that it was a white light and then it was a triangle. It stopped about 100 feet in front of me and approximately 100 feet above me. My telephone got extremely hot, completely froze, dead. I remember how thick it was. It was between 1 to 2 stories thick, equilateral triangle. I could never see the top of it, and the edges were 90 degrees. There were 4 lights in total, 1 light on each corner and a larger light in the center, 2 to 3 times the size of the corner lights. But what was really odd was the outside. The best way to describe it is like looking at a James Webb telescope picture where you have the colors and then the black background. So the craft itself was this black metallic flake paint, but on top of the craft was this gold lava, plasma, some type of fluid going over and around the craft. I'm under this for about 2 to 3 minutes, and then the center light flashes 2 to 3 times, no sound, immediately shoots up to commercial jet level minimum, in my opinion, and I immediately feel static electricity all over my body, and then I smell the smell of after a thunderstorm or lightning storm, that really strong summer thunderstorm smell. Gets up to flight level. I'm trying to get my phone reset, and I can only see the center light at this point. If I didn't actually see it take off, I would have thought it was a star. And then it hovers up there, and it begins to slowly move due east out over the Atlantic Ocean. I finally got my phone reset. The entire thing was about, from the time I saw the light pop up near the hangar until it took off out over the ocean, was about 15 minutes.
In the specific red line flash message traffic with the specific codes pursuant to Article 3 and Article
Angels is that they have the ability to transform, and a lot of that was exploited in the Transformer series movies and in the Transformer cartoons. And so what they did was they based that off of something that was real. And so what we have with fallen angels is not what people think. It's not the touched by an angel version with these guys. These beings are spiritual beings with incredible powers, and one of those powers entails that as we would create objects and as we would form these objects through resources and through the materials and the powers that we have, their powers is that they can transform themselves into objects. And so we're talking objects that look like space-age vehicles and planes. We're talking about objects that basically look like other entities. They can transform into a creature. They could transform into a ship. They can transform to even look like the implements that we have. They can literally transform themselves to disguise themselves as a car, as a plane, and as a lot of different type of objects. There's really nothing they can really do in terms of transforming. We do know that when it comes to the fallen angels, they don't have as much power as they normally would in terms of their transforming abilities, but they do have them at a very good length. So they're not totally depowered. And so a lot of them like to transform into ships. A lot of them like to transform into certain objects. A lot of them like to transform into basically UFOs, basically planes, basically other looking creatures. And sometimes it gets sporadic. Sometimes they kind of, from a lot of the transforming and using the powers that they use in our dimension, and it kind of weighs heavy on them. They can't always maintain it. They can't always maintain the form or the shapes that they take, and sometimes they go a little crazy in the atmosphere. And then sometimes it's caught on camera where they're just like morphing into like a UFO and then a dragon and then other types of forms of spiritual reptilian looking helixes, if you will, combinations of different forms. For instance, you'll see some transforming from a UFO into a dragon-looking creature and then back again, and then it disappears and then comes back again. And when it's doing that, what's happening at that moment is that it's freaking out because it can't maintain its form in our dimension, and they don't want to go back to the other dimension they just came from. So they try to struggle with it. And sometimes when they come into our dimension, they're pretty set in their form or their shape, and they're able to maintain it for probably long periods of time before they end up dissipating, and then another group comes in. And so there is a weakness to them, but we don't have the weapons to really combat them, to tell you the truth. I mean, fighting them is like throwing sticks at them. It's not going to work. You can throw a nuclear warhead at them, and that's not going to work. You can shoot bullets at them, and that's not going to work. When it comes to the full spiritual beings, the full fallen spiritual beings, I'm not talking about their Nephilim children, who are another story, because they can morph too, but not as well as the fallen angels. The fallen angels, to understand them, they're usually balls of light, and then they have demons that can also appear that way. So it's tricky identifying them. But one thing that you can do is when you pay enough attention to them, or if you spent enough time observing them, you start to notice how the demon lights are not as transformable as the fallen angels. Fallen angels are, they can basically transform within seconds and disappear within seconds. And the demons, or the spiritual demons,
뭐야 저거?
Make impact right there with the UFO, and you appear to see what looks like debris falling off the thing, like it broke into several pieces. Well, as you're going to see very clearly, there's no doubt that those were not just random pieces of debris. Those were flying objects that were knocked out of the center of that UFO off the coast of Yemen that became right there aerodynamic and started following the UFO as it continued on. It survived the direct hit right there from a Hellfire missile. How does something like that happen? I want to show you guys something real quick. A remark that was made to Congress yesterday about the Hellfire missile. Here we go. Are you aware of anything in the U.S. arsenal that can split a Hellfire missile like this and do whatever that blob thing did and then keep going? And the witnesses testified that no U.S. technology is capable of surviving such a strike. So continuing on, this thing, whatever it was, should not have survived that impact. But as you can see, it did survive, and 3 objects came out of the inside of the UFO. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. At first, from a distance, you would think, okay, following the strike from the Hellfire missile, it probably broke pieces off of the UFO, UAP, whatever it was. Here we're going in super, super tight. You can see I'm using a different format. It's turned the UFO black. It wasn't necessarily black. I'm not quite sure what color it was because primarily we were working with black and white footage the entire time. This format, however, did turn it black. I zoomed in as close as I could. The clarity remained pretty decent. I managed to increase the clarity just a little bit, but right there it is up close. And you're going to see the strike right there. Notice again what happens right there following the impact. Those things there, whatever they are, appear to have been knocked from the inside of this thing. And as you're going to see when we zoom in close, and you can tell right here, they're all the same size and same shape. Look at that. What are those things? Those are not just random pieces of debris. Those are some sort of intelligently designed objects. Here we go again, slow motion, zoomed in, there they are. And the primary UFO remained intact. It released 3 more smaller ones that ended up traveling behind it. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. It is what it is. Right there it is. But what is it? What were they? They appeared to survive. And as the witness testified, nothing should have been able to survive that direct impact. Here we go. Different format. I pulled out just a little bit to show the Hellfire making contact with the UAP. This is a much different format. And we're going to zoom in a little bit closer, take a couple of looks at the Hellfire making impact. It does indeed impact what appears to be the back half of this unknown object flying off the coast of Yemen. Right there, it makes impact. You can see it knocks it off course. And as you're going to see, somehow or another, right there following the impact, these three objects appear in the sky following the primary object right there. So the primary target turned into not only one, but four targets now. There's 1, 2, 3, now 4.
This very well could be the clearest sign of life that we've ever found on Mars.
So last July, NASA's Perseverance rover found a leopard-spotted rock at Mars. And scientists immediately knew. It was interesting, we hadn't seen anything like that before.
What we saw in this rock were these layers of very fine-grained, rusty red mudstone that had in them these incredible features, these things that we took to calling poppy seeds, which are the sort of dark black spots in the rock, and leopard spots, which are these kind of ring-shaped features that have dark rims around them.
They've done the analysis on these leopard spots, and we think they are potentially made by some sort of ancient life. This finding by our incredible Perseverance rover is the closest we've actually come to discovering ancient life on Mars.
The discovery of a potential biosignature or a feature or signature that could be consistent with biological processes, but that requires further work and study to confirm a biological origin.
energy, light energy. And yet they behaved as if they were structured. That is, they flew in a certain type of trajectory, a certain velocity, and they maneuvered. So we knew that there weren't satellites.
And conveniently, it was named non-germane, mostly deemed by staff, not even an elected official. This is the kind of stuff that we repeatedly see. Last year, we were blocked by someone in House administration from being able to receive a full briefing from Arrow. So not an elected official, but someone in staff blocked us. And I've had it. Enough is enough. I want to cue up a video that I've been given. And as before it starts, I'm going to describe. This was taken October 30th, 2024. This video is of an MQ-9 drone tracking an orb, or this object, off the coast of Yemen. You'll see that another MQ-9 launched a Hellfire missile. That you cannot see that drone.
So Ross, this is new?
So,
this is new.
I'm not going to explain it to you. You'll see exactly what it does.
Oh, wow.
Seems to have evaded the missile.
This is when it zoomed out, so you can still see it traveling.
So the best technology of the US doesn't work against whatever that was.
So, Mr. Knapp, have you heard about, events like this occurring? And what? And then finally, Mr. Borland, when you engaged with Arrow in 2023, you noted that their public statements did not match the reality that you and others had witnessed. In your assessment, what were the key limitations of Arrow?
I would put it to you this way. The statement Arrow has made is scientific evidence of extraterrestrials. Scientific evidence requires a scientific control. Extraterrestrial is an entity on another planet. The only way to scientifically prove extraterrestrial is we have to go to that planet, acquire technology, bring it back, and compare it to what we have here.
So you're saying they won't let anything out or they won't come forward unless they confirm that unless they go to the planet and confirm where its origin is.
That would be scientific evidence, yes. And by that statement, Arrow found no scientific evidence of extraterrestrials is basically, I don't want to call it a psyop, but a misrepresentation, because we do have things. But making that statement is not technically a lie. It's a misrepresentation of the full truth.
Thank you.
Knowing you testified to Arrow, are they obfuscating when they claim to have discovered no evidence of extraterrestrial beings, activity, or technology, and are they lying to the American public?
As I said before, it's a manipulation of the public perception. The statement, scientific evidence of extraterrestrials, is a true statement. It is not the truth about what is happening and what we have.
Would any of y'all like to comment on that further? Mr. Knapp, you're getting edgy.
It's splitting hairs. No proof that they're extraterrestrials. What would that proof look like? A piece of kryptonite? What would it be? I mean, we could be talking about different forms of non-human intelligence. I think the dominant paradigm is that they come from outer space, somewhere else, and they have some way that they can cross those vast distances that we can't even imagine doing. But that's not necessarily the answer. So asking for proof of extraterrestrials might not be the answer at all. It's splitting hairs. We don't know where they're from. I don't know anyone who knows the answer for sure. They call them aliens just as a placekeeper kind of a word, but no one in all these programs who've studied this stuff for years, people with much bigger brains than mine, knows the answer for sure.
I've talked to Navy folks that some of the deep sea areas, they think there might be something there, that they're here, and I don't know when they got here.
Is the founder and host of Guide TV. Interestingly, during one of his services, Yusuf's head briefly transformed into a reptilian-looking creature.
And I don't do it through debates. I don't need to debate any Christian. I was a Christian. I am a Muslim. If you want, I can give you both sides, easy. But he will ask you if you delivered the message. I'll play both parts. I'll be the Christian and tell you this, and then I'll be the Muslim and give the answer. You were at a place and you saw somebody change their religion to another religion in the temple of that religion, and the father was the priest there, what would you think?
Play it.
Toward the tree.
Oh,
there it is. See it going toward the top of the 20 tree.
Oh, no, I can't see it.
We could call it over here across the street. See the double light right there?
Yeah. Virginia? Yeah. Is that far
tree.
away that it's okay?
It was about 6 foot down when it got behind it. And you go back the circle and go back over. Especially this summer, yeah.
All right, see it right now? Yep, I have it.
Look, it's going toward the tree. See it?
Yeah.
That's going to make a left turn, and it's going back that way.
What color is it?
White.
It seems white.
It's like making a figure eight.
But it's far away.
It's just staying elusive.
Okay, so this tree right in front of the Capitol is tree number 2.
It's
This
above the
is
Capitol
number
now.
3.
Yeah.
Or let's make that tree 0, 1, 2.
Yeah, it's making big circles around it.
I lost it.
And they wouldn't be allowed to fly it.
It's going towards tree number 1 now, and it's going around. Yeah,
Yeah,
wow.
yeah, see it
wow,
coming
yeah,
back
yeah,
over
look
the
at
top.
that.
Look at that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Praise be to God. Wow.
Up there, you can see above the
That's
tree.
about the tip right
Oh my gosh, it stopped.
It stopped?
Now it's going again.
No, it's circling.
Yeah, it's circling. I saw the wrong. I was looking at the star. That was my bad.
Up, you can get above the tree. I just want to know, is that a drone over the White House?
No, it's not a drone, love. It's
Over
coming.
the White House?
Right, where? No,
I've
that's
seen
not a
drones
drone.
above the White House. But I just don't know if they would go up that
No,
high.
drones, they don't, and they would have drones like
Oh, that's true. They have to have green and red lights
Right, yeah.
for aviation.
And they wouldn't be glowing like that. Yeah.
Under the first director, who's now long gone, but still seems to act as the spokesperson for that organization.
And I would say, Madam Chair, maybe at some point we need to really dig deep into Arrow, and I would encourage us.
Oh, I'd be happy to send maybe a subpoena to Mr. Kilpatrick.
There you go. Mr. Moose. What the fuck?
Holy shit.
Down there is Area 51, and if you can see those lights down there, it's been going on for the last couple of days. You can see lights like going up and down and moving all around. Like right now, you see that one right there? Look, it's going up. It's starting to go up. It's been there for like the last 20 minutes or so. Now it's going up, and this has been going on for the last couple of days. And look, you can see it's going up and up, and I don't know what it is, but this is like some creepy shit. Now I know that what goes on down here at Area 51, and we've been like camped out here for a while. And look, it's moving. It's going the other direction. Now you see, this is the kind of stuff that. Oh, did you see that? It's gone. It's gone.
February 2020, an Airbus A320 is on a routine flight soaring over Medellin, Colombia. Little does the captain know he's about to find out he's sharing the friendly skies.
The pilot does us the favor of showing his altimeter, and we can see that he's flying around 30,000 feet in altitude.
The pilot then points his camera phone out of the cockpit window, and watch this as he zooms in. A metallic-looking object, a polyhedron of some sort, whizzes by in a straight line. We slow it down and zoom in further. You can see it kind of looks like a cube.
It has these kind of little points that stick out. It does seem to be darker in color and not like a bright, shining balloon. Whatever this is, it definitely shouldn't be there.
One theory is that if we were visited by another civilization, they might send probes ahead of when they actually come.
La Tierra, vean eso, y sí tiene un motor abajo. Sin palabras, no sé qué sea. Pues está ahí.
In 1964, a New Mexico cop saw a strange craft, and two beings in suits unlike anything he'd ever seen. On April 24th, Lonnie Zamora was chasing a speeding car near Socorro, New Mexico, when he saw a flash in the desert. He pulled over and found an oval-shaped craft on legs, white with red markings. Two small figures in smooth white suits stood nearby. They stared at him, then quickly rushed inside before the craft ascended. Zamora described the suits as seamless, something many suggest might be grown or assembled at a molecular level, using advanced biotech or nanobots that could build a suit directly on the body without seams or stitches. The Air Force's Project Blue Book investigated the case but never explained it, though they did document burn marks and ground indentations at the site. Up until he passed away, Zamora never changed his story.
What do you see when you look at the pale blue dot?
My view is here we are like mites on a plum. And the plum is this little planet, and it goes around an insignificant local star, the sun. And that star is on the obscure outskirts of an ordinary galaxy, the Milky Way, which contains 400 billion other stars. And this galaxy is just one of something like 100 billion other galaxies that make up the universe. And this universe is one of an enormous number, maybe even an infinite number, of other closed-off universes. So the idea that we are central, that we are the reason there is a universe, is pathetic.
Why do I slow down as I approach the speed of light? Does it apply to a photon 13?
Now you want to freak out? I don't want your head to explode. You ready?
Yeah.
Okay. No, you're not ready. Are you ready?
No, I'm ready. I'm ready.
Okay. The faster you go, the slower time ticks.
Say that again?
The faster you move,
yeah,
the slower
that's
time
what you
ticks
just said, yeah?
for you,
yeah,
as seen by others.
Right.
As you approach the speed of light, time continues to slow down.
Yes.
At the speed of light, time stops. Which means for a photon moving at the speed of light, when it is absorbed in your retina, it is the same instant it was emitted at the Big Bang 14 billion years ago.
That's what I thought.
The photon gets emitted, bam, it's in your, as far as it's concerned, it is in your eye in that same
Can
instant.
we measure that photon and
Yes.
observe the Big Bang?
I know that came from the Big Bang, and I'm watching it, and it's taken 13.8 billion years to reach you, but if you are that photon, it does not experience that time delay.
My videos, you should see the picture I got on here.
Because you can enlarge it right there, right?
Oh yeah.
So, you don't see what it is with the enlargement?
It just looks like a ball. Come see it on my phone. Oh, where to go?
Bet I don't have my fucking binoculars.
Yeah.
I got a strong pair of binoculars.
That's giving off a lot of light.
Yeah. Camera. Is it camera or video? Camera. Camera, and then...
I'm gonna zoom in again. The highways don't...
About 8:45 in the morning, the dispatcher gets a call from range control, a technical sergeant from range control, and he says, I'm reporting an event that occurred at LF21 and LF10, two different sites in the same location. And what he said was the contractors working on site called range control, and they said there was a gigantic floating red square over LF21 at low altitude. And they were just standing there watching this thing.
A red square. So
red square.
One thing that people have asked me after I spoke about this case at the hearing was, what does that mean, a red square, right? Was this a cube? Did it not look like it had depth, and so it's described as a square? I said square in the hearing because that's how it was described to me, just as you described it. And I'm curious if you have any additional details that you could add. Was it a three-dimensional object? Did it just appear to be a square, and it just couldn't be? You couldn't tell.
So here's the issue. I had the original statement from the contractors. There were three contractors that worked for Boeing that saw this object, and they wrote sworn written statements. I've lost those. I lost them in 2012. I have some other statements, but those are indirect witness statements from it. But from my recollection of reading the documents, to the best of my recollection, it was a somewhat flattened square plane, and basically just a big square object, the size of a football field, silently floating over the launch pad.
Wow.
Red in color, glowing this red color. So as far as I know, it wasn't a cube. It was like a flattened square.
Got it.
Oh shit. What? You think that?
CIA just posted on its website a single-page summary, there it is, of a hostile encounter between the Russian army and a flying saucer that is said to have occurred sometime between 1989 and 1990. So that's when, according to portions of an extensive 250-page KGB file featuring witness testimony and photographs, detail how 25 Soviet troops were practicing training drills when a, quote, low-flying spaceship in the shape of a saucer, unquote, flew above their base in Siberia. Now, the report states that for unknown reasons, the sighting prompted the men to launch a surface-to-air missile, bringing the craft down. The file, quote, 5 short humanoids with large heads, large black eyes emerged from the wreckage before fusing together into a single object, a spherical shape that emitted a buzzing sound. The report goes on to say the sphere burst into an explosion of white light, leaving 23 of the men, quote, turned into stone poles, unquote, while the remaining 2 that apparently were shielded from the blast by being in the shade escaped unharmed. Now, the bodies of the victims and what was left of the UFO were recovered by the Red Army and taken to a research lab outside Moscow, where it was found that the molecular structure of the men was that of limestone.
What?
So the light that petrified them was a source of energy that officials say is not currently known to humanity.
Whoa. We literally said jaw-dropping at the top of the story. I'm sitting there going, what?
This is a CIA report. We're not making it. This isn't a tabloid, okay?
Okay. So this file that's now declassified by the CIA. I mean, analysts that are looking at this, I mean, it does seem far-fetched, like this is some kind of sci-fi movie. I mean, what do they say about these details?
Right. So in the report, and according to the Independent that reported on the report, an unnamed CIA analyst is quoted as saying, quote, if the KGB file corresponds to reality, well, this is an extremely menacing case. The aliens possess weapons and technology that go beyond all of our assumptions. They can stand up for themselves if attacked. And an ex-CIA agent says if there was an incident, he suspects the actual report doesn't look much like what has come out decades later. You know, perhaps it's been embellished over time. Now, if somebody tried to attack you with a surface-to-air missile, would you retaliate?
I mean, how could you not? At least,
yes!
I mean, yeah, you would. This is crazy.
No, it's crazy.
Turning into limestone, using weapons and lasers that are not even earthly, that are out of this world, literally.
Since I saw your video on the labyrinths in Egypt, spoiler alert, there appears to be a 40-meter long metallic tic-tac shaped object. How deep into the ground?
It's in the central atrium, which we'll get into what that is, but somewhere in the realm of 60, 70 meters. So, man, what's that in feet? Like 200 feet, 150 to 180 feet down, something like that.
So, for anybody who's interested, what is the name of that video that you put out?
I think it's the ancient structure, like it's said to be greater than the pyramids. I try to tease it a little bit, but it's on my channel. I mean,
well, it was a good tease. You got me.
Thank you.
I dove right in, and I remember I was in the gym while I was watching it, and I literally stopped working out. I was like, okay, I got to pause this. 'Cause this is not something that I can consume while I'm working out. I need to like really pay attention to this because it's so wild.
First thing I noticed is that more and more vehicles were arriving as the sun was going down. But after a while sitting there in the dark, things started to get interesting. The first thing I noticed was a light appeared on the ground. It was too faint for me to see with the naked eye, but through my nods it showed up very bright. This was indicating to me that the hatch was most likely opening to the underground silo. Wow, this looks crazy. You got it rotating up there on that pylon. Security truck down there making another pass. I don't know why they have their hazards on.
It just dropped it, bro. It just dropped it. Are you kidding me? Look. What?
A certain Harvard astronomer is now claiming that that new interstellar visitor I told you about is possibly a hostile alien technology in disguise. Here's everything you need to know. In case you missed it, a few weeks ago, this new object entered our solar system, headed to pass between us and Mars. And now, Avi Loeb, the astronomer famous for claiming that Oumuamua might be aliens, just published a new paper all about this object saying very similar things. In the paper, the authors discuss the possibility that the object really is an alien spaceship sent to gather information about the Earth. They basically argue that the object comes surprisingly close to the Earth, Venus, and Mars in a way that would benefit the advanced aliens if they were trying to gather information about us. They literally wrote an optimal intercept of the Earth would entail an arrival in the late November/early December of 2025. So should we be worried that aliens are about to come visit us? Honestly, no. The overwhelming consensus is the object is just a comet, and the authors themselves even said the paper is more of a thought experiment, so don't lose sleep over it.
No, estoy temblando. Estamos viendo un ovni triangular. Está parado en medio de la nada.
Se formó de la nada.
Se formó. No manches, ¿qué es eso? Estoy temblando.
Ya vámonos, no vaya a ser que...
Y está saliendo otro chiquito de ese, ¿ya viste?
Te digo que eran 4 y de repente uno subió, se desapareció y ya no se... ¡Ah! No, ¿qué es eso?
No manches. No, es que no lo puedo creer.
De una luz se hicieron 2.
De una luz se hicieron 2, lo están viendo. No, mano, no puedo creer. ¿Oh, sí? Sí está. No manches. Es como un disco enorme, no manches. ¿Qué es eso?
Tengo miedo, estoy temblando.
No manches, yo también.
¿Qué es eso? Porque Luis es una sombra. No.
¿Qué es eso?
¿Qué? ¿Ve?
¿Cuál sombra?
Jorge, hay una sombra arriba.
An icy planet in the outer rim of the galaxy continuously emits a distress signal. Ships passing by rush to provide aid, but mysteriously vanish without a trace. Meanwhile, Earth has long been ravaged, with air pollution and acid rain permeating the cities. In the gloomy sky, countless spacecraft shuttle between Earth and other planets. The wealthy have already migrated to secondary planets. Mark enjoys fishing by the sea because the sound of the waves drowns out the roar of the ships. Frustrated by setbacks at work, he finds solace in his wife, Kara's comfort. One day, Kara unexpectedly signs a contract to transport grade 4 cargo, leaving them both overjoyed. However, the destination is Cassiopeia, a harsh and dangerous region in the outer rim. The mission will only take a month, but the pay is enough for them to immigrate to a secondary planet. With Kara's reassurance, Mark reluctantly agrees. 7 months pass, and Mark tosses and turns restlessly. The system indicates that Kara's ship went missing during its last mission. For months, Mark has been traversing the galaxy in search of his wife. This time, he decides to venture into more distant star systems to find clues. With his ship fully charged, Mark immediately activates the drive engine, and the vessel jumps through space. The ship soon arrives at a spaceport. Upon entering, Mark seeks out a staff member to inquire about the cargo ship. The worker, however, recites the query process without even glancing at him. It's not until Mark offers a token of sincerity that the employee agrees to help, pulling up the ship's itinerary. Based on the records, Mark locates the worker who refueled the ship. Upon learning that the missing person is Mark's wife, the fellow low-level worker expresses sympathy. Seeing Kara's photo, he immediately recalls fueling the ship with 300 units of energy that day, though he's unsure of its destination. However, he mentions a hidden route nearby that was frequently used by ships during the oil boom years ago, until oil was declared contraband and the route was abandoned. Back on his ship, Mark lists all the routes within a 300-unit fuel radius, including the hidden one. Having already searched the other routes, this secret path is now his only hope. To conserve fuel, Mark enters a cryogenic hibernation pod.
This is the video, it's called a Comburgus video, which is a close-up of a craft, so close that you can see the occupants. It is 100% real, and I was there as that was filmed.
The whole footage has been analyzed from our scientific board for 2.5 weeks, frame by frame, pixel by pixel, and this is 100% genuine footage.
Mark activates the drive engine and the ship jumps through space. In an instant, it emerges in the outer rim of the galaxy, navigating autonomously through an asteroid field. After an unknown duration, the artificial intelligence rouses Mark from his slumber. A distress signal has been detected nearby. As Mark regains consciousness, he sees a frozen planet before him. Without hesitation, he steers the ship towards the source of the signal. The planet's surface is plagued by harsh weather conditions. Soon, a crashed spacecraft comes into view. Mark immediately recognizes it as his wife's cargo ship. Eagerly, he lands on the planet's surface and braves the blizzard to reach Kara's vessel. Perplexed by the ship's presence on this icy world, Mark pries open the hatch and squeezes inside, only to find it empty. He boots up the computer and accesses the flight logs. It turns out that Kara's ship had encountered a solar storm, deviating from its intended course by several thousand light years. Perhaps fearing an encounter with space pirates, Kara had falsified her previous logs, making rescue impossible. By chance, they had picked up the distress signal and decided to land on this frozen planet. Unfortunately, they were caught in an extreme cold storm during the descent. To maintain survival, Kara had diverted engine power to the life support systems. Left with no choice, they set out to find the source of the distress beacon, hoping to obtain assistance. At that moment, Mark also receives the distress signal. He ventures out into the snowstorm, heading towards its origin. Suddenly, he slips and falls to the ground, only to realize that he had stumbled upon another ship. Brushing away the accumulated snow, he discovers that it is the USS Neptune, an earlier vessel that had sent out the distress call. This planet seems to be a graveyard for ships. Pressing forward, Mark locates the mysterious distress beacon. Its peculiar design flashes with a red light, clearly not of human origin. As he reaches out to touch it, he finds a thick layer of slime covering its surface. Could this be some kind of creature? Without warning, the beacon shuts off, and the ground trembles. The ice beneath Mark's feet fractures, revealing that the beacon is an organ of a colossal beast. It mimics distress signals to lure unsuspecting rescuers. Mark tries to run, but it's too late. He plummets into the monster's abyssal maw, along with the snow and ice.
UFOs are the Coast Guard's 5-1 in. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 lights we see there. They've been coming on. They were 7 lights. Oh, this is a big deal. They're keeping pace with us.
Radar at the Leningrad airport detects first one, then two, then three unidentified objects hovering over a nuclear plant. From a dead stop, the UFO zipped away at 2,000 miles per hour. The Urals, 1976. A photographer clicks this shot and later provides a more detailed drawing. May 1992. A military team in the Kola Peninsula tapes this spinning object. In Tbilisi, a crew shooting a music video spots this overhead. Today, average Russians are free to discuss UFOs, but it wasn't always so. Through the 50s and 60s, the Kremlin declared UFOs a capitalist creation, thus a non-topic. But behind the scenes, Stalin and other leaders authorized secret UFO studies. Retired Colonel Boris Sokolov commanded such a study for 10 years. The entire Russian military took part. Thousands of reports were generated, but were kept secret until 1993, when Sokolov first spoke to us. The study included 40 incidents of Russian warplanes encountering UFOs. One MiG had its wing damaged in a collision with a UFO. This former pilot says a UFO disabled his plane with a beam of light. In 1982, a UFO hovered over a nuclear missile base in the Ukraine for hours. Unexplainably, codes were entered and the missiles were ready for launch until the UFO vanished. General Igor Maltsev, for 7 years commander of the entire Soviet air defense system, recalls a UFO flap over Moscow in 1990. Hundreds of visual and radar observations by military personnel. Maltsev confirms his standing order was, "Don't fire on the UFOs," but he declines to say much else. His boss, the former deputy defense minister, declined to speak altogether under orders. And even Sokolov is now reluctant to talk, in part because he was attacked in communist newspapers following our 1993 interview. There's more than one kind of chill in the Moscow air these days. With the double political whammy of the revived communists and the scary nationalists, the Russian government needs a UFO expose like it needs a red, white, and blue paint job on the Kremlin. Science has received the message. Individuals and the Russian Academy are now downplaying their long-term studies of UFOs. Oddly, the KGB has opened up, including a release of this long secret film of a UFO. KGB adds it has no ongoing interest in flying saucers, although it does have several hundred files.
The objective of this program was to prove the effectiveness of the new control system from hovering through transition in the presence of the ground up to free flight conditions. The program consisted in the main of further wind tunnel tests at Ames Research Center to prove the effects of these modifications, with a short flight test program at Avro to establish that the hovering capability had not deteriorated. A brief terrain test program was later added.
Watching this light emerge from the water at a distance and then go into the air with a solid light, no blinking or anything, I've never noticed that and witnessed that ever in my life. That's kind of what triggered me to go back to my instruments, check it out, talk with the watch team and ask them, are you seeing what I'm seeing? Let's use other sensors. Let's use what we got to see what we're witnessing.
Did you see one of these craft come up out of the water or not out of the water?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So when I say that I saw this craft come out of the water, it's nighttime. So I want to be clear when I say what I saw a light, and it was a decently bright light. So when you've been on the water as long as I have, you know the difference between an aircraft carrier's lights, a difference between a oiler's lights, a fishing, a cargo ship. It's what we learn when we freshly come into the Navy, especially as an operations specialist. We have to learn silhouettes. We have to learn lighting structures, things of that nature. It's just part of what our job is. Being senior enlisted, it's become part of very basic elementary things that you have to know when doing your job. Kind of learning the basics first and then, applying what you experience throughout your time and then kind of coming up with your, solution as what you're seeing. So watching this light emerge from the water at a distance and then go into the air with a solid light, no blinking or anything, I've never noticed that and witnessed that ever in my life. That's kind of what triggered me to go back to my instruments, check it out, talk with the watch team and ask them, are you seeing what I'm seeing? Let's use other sensors. Let's use what we got to see what we're witnessing. One thing I do want to add is that when I witnessed that, I wasn't feeling threatened. I didn't think, you know, the ship is going to get attacked. And why didn't I think that? Because multiple reasons. I'm not at a different level of ROE. I'm not postured in such a way off the coast of San Diego where we're receiving intel that there's a significant level threat, that we need to be at a higher threat level. None of this is happening, right? We're off the coast. We're doing workups. We're, you know, doing training, things of that nature. So nothing made me think that we need to, you know, trigger a higher level of threat warning. I indicated what I saw to the tactical action officer, the TAO, who's in charge of Combat Information Center, ICC-1. And it was just, let's do more investigating. Let's see what we're looking at. And that's why we got Sapphire to look in that direction and notice what we noticed.
An alien pilot was steering his spacecraft toward Earth. During his patrol, he had picked up a powerful radio signal. The mission manual indicated that the dominant species on this planet were humans. Curious, he decided to visit this blue planet to investigate further. He also intended to capture a human to take back for study. Soon, he maneuvered his spacecraft through the atmosphere and landed smoothly on the planet's surface. As he slowly stepped out of the cabin, he was surprised to find that the environment was extremely harsh, much like a dead planet. Using the ship's lights to guide his way, he proceeded cautiously. Suddenly, he came across a spherical object. After comparing it with images of humans, he confirmed that it was a human head. Not far from it, there was a pile of similar objects. Upon closer inspection, he managed to assemble a complete human body. However, he was unaware that these were just human-made mannequins. Perhaps fearing corrosion, he carefully placed the parts into a culture dish and injected them with a freezing solution to preserve them in cryogenic storage. Afterward, he returned to the cockpit, checked off the task in the manual with a large tick, and initiated the launch sequence. Mission complete, he took off and left Earth. Meanwhile, on the surface of the planet, a newspaper headline read clearly, 2030, human negotiations fail again. Nuclear war is now unavoidable.